"We haven't eaten in 5 days," the widow whispered, shivering beneath the tattered blanket wrapped around her young twins. The rancher froze in the falling snow, the loaf of bread in his hands the last thing he owned worth anything. His voice trembled as he said, "Ma'am, I reckon this here ain't just bread. It's a promise. If you take it, you take my name too." And in that moment, when a starving mother must decide if hope is worth trusting again, every life in the room changed forever. The wind roared against the flimsy walls of the widow's tiny cabin, threatening to blow the whole thing apart. Her name was Clara Hayes, and once, not so long ago, she had lived a life filled with laughter and candlelight. She had worn a wedding ring and danced under lanterns at the barn socials. But then the winter sickness came, took her husband, Samuel, in the span of a single cold night, and with him went the crops, the neighbors' kindness, and every reason she had to wake up in the morning except the two trembling children clinging to her sides now. Little Emmy and Jacob, too small to understand death, too hungry to pretend they weren't fading. She had prayed for a miracle. And a rancher, mud-covered and breathless from his ride, had knocked on her door. He was a stranger. A man built from the earth, broad shoulders, rough hands, dust and heartbreak in his eyes. His name was Luke Turner, and though he spoke kindly, she could feel the weight he carried, like he too had once loved and lost. When he placed the warm bread in Clara's palm, her fingers shook. No gift came without a cost anymore. "Why?" she asked, unable to bear false hope. "Why would you help me?" Luke swallowed, his voice scraping forward. "I ain't here for a thank you. I'm here because your husband was the best man I ever knew. We served together in the war, and I ain't repaid my debt." Clara's heart twisted. Samuel had never mentioned such a man, but then, war stories often stayed buried. "I promised him," Luke went on, "that if anything ever happened to him, I'd make sure his family survived. But I lost everything in the fire last spring. This is all I got left." He held her gaze, as though waiting for her to refuse. Clara pressed the bread to her chest, tears welling, because she knew exactly what it meant for a working man to give away his last bit of food. The twins stared wide-eyed at the loaf, their tiny hands ready to devour life itself. Clara broke the loaf and fed her children first, because a mother always does. Luke watched, silent, his breath visible in the cold. She hadn't taken a bite yet, not wanting to rob them of a crumb. Luke noticed. "Eat, Clara," he said softly. Her name in his voice felt strangely safe. She took a small piece, hesitating, like eating meant accepting she wasn't alone anymore. And when she tasted bread again, after nearly giving up on ever doing so, it unlocked all the tears she had fought back since Samuel's last breath. Emmy and Jacob chewed with innocent gratitude, unaware that bread shouldn't make you cry. Luke's throat tightened. He turned away to hide the sting in his eyes. "Winter's only gettin' worse," he murmured. "You can't survive out here alone." Clara's jaw tightened, a fragile pride fighting to rise. "I've managed this long." He shook his head. "Barely." His boots crunched against the frost-covered floor as he stood. "I'm offering more than help. I'm offering a home. My ranch ain't much, but it's warmer than death." Clara looked at her children, purple-lipped, hollow-cheeked, numb, and she knew he was right. "Why your name?" she whispered. Luke sighed, almost ashamed. "In this territory, a woman living with a man she ain't married to, people make trouble. And the law don't protect you unless I'm legally responsible. I ain't a skin for your heart, just for you to survive." She stared at him, panic and hope wrestling in her chest. Could she trust him? Could she not? The twins looked up at Luke like he was some folktale hero who rode through snowstorms just to save them. And in their eyes, Clara saw a future that wasn't all hunger and loss. She wiped her cheeks. "If Samuel trusted you," she said shakily, "then I will too." Luke nodded once, slow, solemn, and in silence, a promise was made. The Turner Ranch stood lonely against the horizon, a stubborn patch of life in a world swallowed by winter. Clara held a child in each arm as Luke lifted them down from his horse, his breath labored after the long ride. Smoke rose from a chimney, something Clara hadn't smelled at home in months. Luke's dog, a grizzled old shepherd named Dusty, barked with excitement, circling the children like he already belonged to them. The twins giggled for the first time since Samuel died. Clara's heart clenched. It hurt to witness joy she wasn't sure she deserved. Inside, the house was simple but strong: wooden beams, thick quilts, a stove already burning. Luke lit a lantern and motioned for them to settle near the warmth. Clara exhaled, sinking down with the children on her lap. Heat blossomed across their frozen faces. Luke busied himself cooking what little he had left, beans and a sliver of dried meat, dividing it all into 4 equal portions. "You don't eat enough," Clara said quietly, noticing his hollow cheeks. He shrugged, forcing a smile. "I'll manage." She understood sacrifice too well to push back. For days, they lived carefully, each moment a fragile step toward survival. Luke repaired the cabin's leaks, chopped firewood until his shoulders ached, and checked on Clara more than he checked on himself. Clara cleaned, mended, cooked when she could, and held the children tight each night, whispering stories so they wouldn't fear the dark. She watched Luke from the corner of her eye, learning him, how he always stood between them and the wind when he opened the door, how he prayed silently before every meal despite his roughness, how he woke screaming some nights, wore memories he refused to speak of. He was a man cracked by life but still determined to be whole. Clara found herself wanting to heal what haunted him, yet terrified to open her own wounds. One evening, after the twins slept, Luke poured her a cup of hot broth. Their hands brushed. She pulled away too fast. "I'm sorry," he said, retreating as though he'd sinned. "No," she whispered. "I'm just not used to kindness anymore." Luke stared at the flickering firelight, voice low. "Kindness is the only thing that keeps us human." The room fell still. Clara's heart thudded loud enough to hear. She thought of Samuel, his laughter, his dreams, and wondered if he would want her to cling to sorrow or choose life again. The guilt was heavy, but so was hope. A harsh knock rattled the door. Luke's shoulders stiffened. He grabbed his rifle, positioned himself ahead of Clara and the children. When he opened the door, the cold burst in, along with 3 men wrapped in fur coats and greed. The largest smirked. "Heard you took in a widow. That means you broke your deal, Turner." Clara's stomach dropped. Luke didn't look back. "I didn't break nothin'. The man lifted his chin. "You owe us half your livestock in exchange for protection. New mouths to feed mean new payment." Luke's grip tightened. "I ain't paying bullies. Ain't now, ain't ever." The bully stepped closer, eyes dark. "Then winter'll swallow you whole. And we'll enjoy watching." The tension snapped. Luke slammed the door shut and barricaded it. Clara rushed to him. "Luke, what does he mean?" Luke swallowed, trying to stay calm. "Some ranchers formed a gang, call it protection, but it's theft. Samuel fought 'em off once. They ain't forgotten." His voice cracked with frustration. "I brought danger to your doorstep." Clara touched his arm gently, instinctive. "No. You brought us life. We'll face danger together." Luke's eyes met hers, softening with something unspoken. Something warm. Days later, the gang returned, torches in hand, horses snarling through the storm. Luke loaded his rifle, determination burning brighter than fear. Clara gathered the children, ready to defend her home, this new home, if it cost her everything. A gunshot split the night. Luke staggered, not from injury but from the shock of how far they were willing to go. "Stay inside," he ordered. Clara refused. "I lost one man to a storm. I won't lose another to cowards." she stood beside him. Shoulder to shoulder. Breath to breath, and the gang, seeing a family united, not victims, hesitated. Samuel's memory, the legacy of a good man, lingered in Luke's stance. The leader scoffed and turned away. Ain't worth freezing to kill the stubborn tonight. But this ain't over. They rode off into darkness. Luke dropped his rifle, trembling. Clara. I can't protect you alone. She took his hand, her choice loud and clear. Then we'll protect each other. For the first time since Samuel's death, Clara felt her heart beat not from fear, but from belonging. She looked at Luke, this man who had given everything so her children could wake to another sunrise, and realized Samuel's last gift to her might not have been a memory. It might have been Luke. A second chance. A future. Clara lifted Luke's hand to her lips, eyes shining with gratitude and something deeper. Yes, she whispered. I'll take your name. Outside, winter howled. Inside, warmth grew, and in the quiet glow of the fire, a broken family began to heal, together.